While leading the battle against Russia on the ground, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is also using all diplomatic channels and platforms to drum up support for his country, which has been witnessing a mounting offensive by the Russian military. The Ukrainian leader addressed the US Congress earlier today and reiterated his call for assistance from the West. He was greeted by a standing ovation by the US lawmakers. Zelensky urged the US Congress to do more to help Ukraine's fight against Russia. The Ukrainian president has been seeking action on two main fronts. One, to impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine to protect the country and its people from the Russian air assaults. And two, to supply Ukraine with better, stronger aircraft and defense systems. Zelensky has made similar appeals earlier at the EU Parliament, the UK Parliament and the Canadian Parliament.
This is a terror that Europe has not seen for the last 80 years, and we are asking for a reply, for an answer to this terror from the whole world. Is this a lot to ask for, to create a no-fly zone over Ukraine to save people? Is this too much to ask, a humanitarian no-fly zone, something that Russia would not be able to terrorize our free cities? If this is too much to ask, we offer an alternative. You know what kind of defense systems we need. S-300 and other similar systems. You know how much depends on the battlefield, on the ability to use aircrafts, powerful, strong air aviation to protect our people, our freedom, our land. Aircraft that can help Ukraine, help Europe, and you know that they exist and you have them. But they are on earth, not in the Ukrainian sky. They do not defend our people.
The Ukrainian president even called for tougher sanctions against Russia. He urged the US President Joe Biden to ensure that American markets are shut for Russian goods.
Now it is true in the darkest time for our country, for whole of Europe. I call on you to do more. New packages of sanctions are needed constantly every week until the Russian military machine stops. Restrictions are needed for everyone on whom this unjust regime is based. We propose that the United States sanctions all politicians in the Russian Federation who remain in their offices and do not cut ties with those who are responsible for the aggression against Ukraine.
Volodymyr Zelensky also cited Pearl Harbor and the 9/11 terror attacks, while appealing to the US Congress, where thousands of innocent lives were lost. He said that his country has been experiencing the same for 3 weeks now.
Remember Pearl Harbor, terrible morning of December 7th, 1941, when your sky was black from the planes attacking you. Just remember it. Remember September the 11th, a terrible day in 2001, when evil tried to turn your city's independent territories in battlefields. When innocent people were attacked from the air. Yes, just like no one else expected it, you could not stop it. Our country experienced the same every day, right now at this moment, every night for 3 weeks now.
Zelensky even addressed Joe Biden directly, urging him to be the leader of peace. And showed the US lawmakers a heart-wrenching video of ruined cities and injured Ukrainian civilians, including children. The video ended with Zelensky's appeal to close the Ukrainian airspace.
Now I'm almost 45 years old. My age stopped when the hearts of more than 100 children stopped beating. I see no sense in life if it cannot stop the deaths. And this is my main mission as the leader of my people, great Ukrainians, and as the leader of my nation. I am addressing President Biden. You are the leader of this nation, of your great nation. I wish you could be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace.
US and NATO allies have until now ruled out enforcing a no-fly zone over Ukraine. They say the move would drag them directly into the conflict with nuclear-armed Russia. The US president has been reluctant when it comes to providing military assistance to Ukraine as well. He is facing criticism from the Republican Party for being too weak when it comes to tackling Russia. And now, after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's emotional address to the American Congress, the pressure on Joe Biden has only multiplied. He is likely to announce $1 billion in new security assistance to Ukraine. Let's go straight across now to our correspondents, Susan Tehrani with us from New York and Anas Malik with us from Kiev for more updates. Anas, coming to you first. You've been reporting from Kiev for days now, helping us better understand the situation on the ground. Tell us more about the significance of these pleas that the Ukrainian president has been making. He's been consistent. He wants a no-fly zone over Ukraine.
Well, that's something that has been a core demand or a key demand since this invasion began, since the 24th of February. Because for one reason, the Ukrainian military or Ukrainian air forces airfields have been damaged by the Russian side, and we're seeing airstrikes being taken place, being done by the Russian military. That's what the Ukrainian side says, on civilian areas. As latest as today in the morning, where a strike took place on what is believed were people buying bread in the eastern city of Chernihiv, and at least 10 people have been killed. Now, that's one of the reasons that we've seen billboards going up or digital signboards going up around the city of Kiev which say NATO close the skies now, quote, and that Ukrainians are not requesting, they are begging, unquote. So that shows the amount of desperation that's here, because the Ukrainian side understands that at this point of time it does not have the air power to outdo the Russian military or to counter the Russian military, and that is one of the reasons we saw this desperate call or cry for help as well, or a reiteration of his stance today before the US Congress by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Molly?
Right. Susan, just a while ago, the Ukrainian president addressed the US Congress. He received a standing ovation. But what about more assistance, more military aid? How far is the US willing to go when it comes to helping Ukraine?
There's bipartisan support here in the United States to help Ukraine in any way possible. And while the U.S. has been reluctant in imposing a no-fly zone, because that would essentially put NATO member states and the United States at direct war with Russia and would start World War III. Anything short of that, the United States hasn't been stopping short of doing. There is one issue that perhaps the Republican Party has been gaining momentum and calling for, and those are those MiG planes that the Biden administration had a back and forth with Poland, and that's something that perhaps has been a bone of contention, and we saw President Zelensky talk about that as well during his speech. $200 billion was allocated. $200 million was allocated to Ukraine aid. Another $800 million. The president shortly is due to announce shortly in a televised speech that he's going to provide aid, possibly drones as well, explosive drones. So that'll bring the aid to about $1 billion. But, you know, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see if that is enough. The plea by President Zelensky is something that hasn't been unnoticed on both sides of the aisle here in the United States, which, you know, as we've said time and again, is very rare to see this kind of bipartisan support, at least on a foreign policy issue, understandably.
Indeed, Anas, I want to also ask you to summarize for us what the day has looked like today in Kiev, the situation on the ground. Those attacks have continued for 3 weeks now.
Well, yes, today marks day 21st of the Russian invasion of the country of here where I am in Ukraine, and Kyiv is under a curfew for the past 24 hours, and it will last for another 12 hours or so. It came into effect 8 p.m. Late evening yesterday, and currently it's about 6:45 here on the dial. So about 24 hours it's been. Only personnel of the armed forces or the law enforcement were allowed. Minus that, if you're from the medical services or essential services, then you'd be allowed on the road. Otherwise, even if you have accreditation passes, you would not be allowed on the road, and that's something that we saw being enforced strictly. Then the shelling continued. The Russian forces' progression or advancement towards Kiev, by the looks of it, it continues, because the battle is literally at the gates, both in the northeast and at the northwest. Both sides, it's about 25 kilometers from the capital city of Kiev. So there was this grimness or tensions that could have been felt. Everything was closed. Not that it's not a ghost town. The city is not a ghost town, but the fact that it was under curfew just reiterated that. One thing more that I would like to add, that it was unclear why the curfew was imposed, because there were a lot of speculations. We had the three prime ministers from the Czech Republic, Slovenia and Poland visiting last night, arriving late last night through train in the capital city of Kiev. So some people said, or there were speculations that it could have been done because of that. Then there were speculations that the Ukrainian military wanted to go out against those saboteurs, or who they believe were Russian facilitators, and they wanted to carry out operation. And that's as a consequence of which we saw intermittent gunfire as well, just around the corner, about 3 to 4 kilometers from where I am. And then the other enunciation was that it could have been done possibly to avoid civilians going out amidst a threat, or a genuine threat of the Russian shelling or bombardment increasing towards the city. So in the absence of a formal statement or clarity, there is anxiety that is there within the residents, at least here in the city of Kiev.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.